A small act, a massive fate, an unyielding battle between kindness and crime. A brave black lawyer gives up his first-class seat to a pregnant stranger, unknowingly plunging himself into a life-or-death fight against notorious crime lord Kyle Morton. From exposing an international smuggling ring to battling a racist justice system that sees him as a threat, will his kindness become his downfall? Hero or criminal? How can he break free from racial prejudice and claim justice? Will love blossom amid danger? Behind this pulse-pounding journey lies a powerful truth. Don't miss the story of courage, humanity, and a relentless struggle for survival. The soft hum of the airplane engine buzzed in Alex Carter's ears as he adjusted his seatbelt. The leather seat in the first-class cabin seemed to wrap around him in a comforting embrace. He wasn't used to this kind of luxury. Despite being a successful lawyer, Alex still felt like he didn't quite belong in these lavish surroundings. Years of discrimination had taught him to remain cautious, even when he'd worked hard to earn every bit of success. This flight from Chicago to Los Angeles was supposed to be a calm, restful preparation before his biggest trial yet. The stakes were sky high, and the client, a tech mogul caught in a corporate scandal, was counting on him to clear his name. Alex leaned back, letting out a quiet breath as he pulled his laptop from his leather briefcase, determined to use the flight time to finalize his notes. Suddenly, the quiet murmur of the cabin shifted, drawing his attention to the aisle. A woman was standing near the entrance to the first-class section, clutching the handle of an overhead bin to steady herself. She was clearly pregnant, her belly prominently round under her loose dress, and her face pale and exhausted. The flight attendant seemed caught in an awkward limbo, trying to politely guide her back to the economy cabin. Alex couldn't help but notice the way people in the first-class seats avoided her gaze. No one moved. Some shifted uncomfortably, others pretended to be engrossed in their tablets or phones. Alex swallowed down a familiar frustration. He knew what it felt like to be ignored, to be seen as someone who didn't belong. Making a snap decision, he unbuckled his seatbelt and stood up. "Ma'am," he said gently, approaching her with a warm smile. "Take my seat. You look like you could use a little more space." Her eyes widened with surprise then suspicion, as if trying to figure out his motive. But when she saw the sincerity in his expression, her shoulders relaxed just a bit. "Oh, I couldn't," she stammered. "You paid for this seat." "Seriously," Alex replied, giving a reassuring smile. "It's not a problem. I'll be fine back there." The flight attendant, grateful to see the problem solved, quickly helped her into the seat as Alex retrieved his belongings. Before he moved away, the woman managed to whisper a breathless, "Thank you. I really needed this." As Alex made his way back to the economy cabin, he noticed how narrow the seat seemed compared to what he'd just given up. He ended up in a middle seat squeezed between two burly men who shot him annoyed glances for interrupting their space. Alex settled in with as much dignity as he could muster, still feeling a flicker of satisfaction from his small act of kindness. He didn't know then that it would change his life forever. As the plane ascended, Alex couldn't help but think about the woman in his former seat. What was her story? Why did she seem so on edge? He brushed off his curiosity, forcing his attention back to his laptop. But it was no use. He couldn't focus. The way she'd looked at him, both grateful and terrified, kept replaying in his mind. Halfway through the flight, he dozed off, his mind clouded with a restless sleep. In his dream, he saw shadows chasing the woman down a long, dark corridor, her panicked breaths echoing like thunder. He woke up suddenly, heart pounding, and found himself staring at the blank screen of his laptop. The plane landed smoothly at LAX, and as passengers began to gather their things, Alex saw the woman from first class standing by the exit, seemingly waiting for him. When he approached, she flashed a hesitant smile. "I didn't get a chance to thank you properly," she said, her voice softer and less guarded than before. "That seat meant more than you know." "No need to thank me," Alex replied. "You looked like you needed it more than I did." They walked together through the terminal, the conversation flowing naturally despite the odd circumstances. Her name was Jenna, and she was 7 months pregnant. Alex noticed how she flinched at loud noises or sudden movements. He could tell that there was a story behind those tired eyes. "So," Alex ventured cautiously, "are you meeting someone here?" Her face stiffened, and she glanced around nervously. "Actually, no, I don't really have anywhere to go right now." Something about her tone struck a chord. He had seen that fear before, in clients, in victims, in people running from something or someone. "Do you need help?" Alex asked, keeping his voice low. She hesitated, as if weighing whether to trust him. Finally, she let out a shaky breath. I can't go back. I left him, my husband. I had to run." The tension in her voice twisted his stomach into knots. "What happened?" Jenna didn't meet his gaze. He hurt me. Even after I got pregnant, it didn't stop. It only got worse. I thought I could endure it for the baby's sake, but when he threatened to kill me last week, I knew I couldn't stay." Alex felt a surge of anger rise up in him. "Did you report it to the police?" Her lips trembled. "Kyle's powerful. His family has connections, and he made sure that no one would listen to me. Even when I tried to file a report, they just shrugged it off. They treated me like a crazy, hormonal wife." He clenched his jaw, trying to contain his frustration. "Do you have any family here?" She shook her head. "Everyone I know is back in Chicago. I just needed to get away. I scraped together enough money for the ticket and left before he came home." Alex thought quickly. "Let's get you somewhere safe first. We'll figure out the rest later." After booking a room at a modest hotel near the airport, Alex helped Jenna settle in. As she freshened up, he called a few contacts, old friends from law school who might know about legal protection for domestic abuse victims. His instincts were on high alert. If Kyle was as connected as Jenna claimed, this could get messy fast. When Jenna stepped out of the bathroom, she looked calmer, though shadows still lingered in her eyes. "Alex," she began cautiously, "you've already done more than enough. You don't have to get involved." He met her gaze with determination. "I can't just walk away knowing you're in danger. There's more to this, isn't there?" Her lips tightened as she pulled out a small, unassuming USB drive from her purse. "This is everything I managed to get from his office. It's financial data. I'm not sure what it all means, but it looked wrong, like he was hiding money or moving it somewhere." Alex's eyes widened. "You took this from him? Jenna, if he finds out you have it—" "He already knows," she whispered, voice shaking. "Before I left, he caught me trying to copy more files. He told me that if I ever tried to betray him, he'd hunt me down, no matter where I went." A cold chill crept through Alex. This wasn't just about domestic abuse. Kyle Morton wasn't just an abusive husband. He was a criminal with secrets worth killing for. A sudden knock on the door jolted them both. Jenna froze, eyes wide with terror. Alex gestured for her to stay quiet as he moved to the door, peering through the peephole. A tall man in a black suit stood there, scanning the hallway. "Jenna," Alex whispered urgently, "pack your stuff. We're leaving, now." He grabbed her hand and led her through the emergency exit at the end of the corridor, heart pounding as they slipped into the alley behind the hotel. Jenna gripped his arm, fear evident in every breath she took. "What now?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Alex looked at her with a grim resolve. "We're going to the only place where he can't reach you, and then we're going to expose him, one way or another." Little did he know, the journey ahead would be a deadly game of cat and mouse, one that would test his courage, loyalty, and heart in ways he never imagined. The dimly lit alley stretched ahead of them as Alex gripped Jenna's hand, his heart pounding like a war drum. Shadows danced under flickering street lamps, and he could feel Jenna's panic rising with every passing second. They couldn't stay there. Whoever that man was at the door, he was trouble. And probably Kyle's trouble. "Stay close," Alex whispered. guiding her through the maze of back alleys that snaked behind the hotel. He kept glancing over his shoulder, making sure they weren't being followed. Jenna's breathing was shallow, her knuckles white as she held onto his sleeve. They emerged onto a busier street, blending into the crowd as best they could. Alex quickly flagged down a taxi, urging Jenna inside before ducking in himself. He gave the driver an address for a rundown motel on the opposite side of town, someplace that wouldn't stand out. As they sped away, Jenna finally let out a shaky breath. "Who was that guy?" she asked, fear threading through her words. "Could be one of Kyle's men," Alex replied grimly. "If Kyle's really connected, he's got resources. We can't stay in one place too long." Jenna rubbed her belly absent-mindedly, worry evident on her face. "I'm so sorry I got you into this," she whispered. Alex looked at her, determination hardening his jaw. "You didn't drag me into anything. I chose to help you, and I'm not going to let that bastard get his hands on you again." As the taxi wove through traffic, Alex's mind raced with plans. They needed somewhere secure, someone they could trust. His thoughts landed on Mark Davis, an old friend and FBI agent. Mark owed him a favor from a case years back, and if anyone could help untangle this mess, it was him. He dialed Mark's number, praying he'd pick up. The line clicked, and a familiar gruff voice answered. "Davis here." "Mark, it's Alex. I'm in trouble." A pause, then, "What kind of trouble?" Alex gave him a quick rundown, keeping his voice low. When he mentioned Kyle Morton, Mark swore under his breath. "That guy's bad news. You know what you're getting into, Alex?" "Believe me, I didn't plan for this. But Jenna's in danger, and I've got a flash drive with what looks like financial data. Could be laundering, maybe worse." There was a long silence before Mark responded. "Bring it to me. There's a safe house in Inglewood. I'll send the address. Be careful. If Morton's involved, this isn't just domestic violence, it's organized crime." After hanging up, Alex relayed the plan to Jenna, whose face paled even further. "Organized crime?" she whispered. "I thought it was just his business." "I didn't know." "It's going to be okay," Alex assured her, though he didn't fully believe it himself. Nightfall at the safe house. The safe house was an old, nondescript duplex tucked between abandoned buildings. Mark met them at the door, ushering them inside with a tense look. "You're lucky I picked up," he muttered, locking the door behind them. "Morton's got cops in his pocket. If he knows you're here, we're all screwed." Alex handed over the flash drive. Mark plugged it into his laptop, scrolling through the files as his eyes widened. Holy hell. This isn't just laundering. He's funneling millions through shell companies, shipping illegal weapons disguised as construction materials. There's a network linking suppliers from Russia, South America. This could bury him. Jenna sank into a chair, cradling her stomach. So I was right. He's a monster. Mark glanced at her sympathetically. If we can get this to the right people, we can take him down. Problem is, he's already covering his tracks. There are transactions here dated as recently as yesterday. He knows the feds are close. A loud crash from the back of the house made everyone freeze. Mark motioned for them to be quiet, drawing his gun and signaling for Alex to stay with Jenna. Shadows moved outside the window, then another crash, this time at the front. They found us, Mark whispered, teeth gritted. Alex, take Jenna and go out the back. I'll cover you. No way, Alex began, but Mark cut him off. You're the only one who can protect her. Get to my car. It's parked 2 blocks down. Keys are in the sun visor. Go! Before Alex could argue further, bullets shattered the front window. Mark fired back, shouting at them to move. Alex pulled Jenna, heart racing, through the back door and into the alley. They sprinted through the narrow passage, Jenna struggling to keep pace. Just as they reached the car, headlights flashed on and another black SUV screeched around the corner, blocking their path. Men with guns poured out, shouting orders. Alex made a split-second decision. He shielded Jenna, pulled open the car door, and shoved her inside. One of the men rushed forward and Alex swung the door into his face, knocking him down. He jumped into the driver's seat, flooring the gas pedal. Bullets ricocheted off the back as they sped down the street. Jenna was shaking violently, tears streaming down her face. "They're not going to stop," she whispered. Alex's knuckles turned white on the steering wheel. "No, they won't. Not until they kill us or silence you, but we're not giving up." The heart of the beast. They needed somewhere to hide, somewhere Kyle wouldn't think to look. As he drove, Alex's phone buzzed. It was Mark. "Alex." Mark's voice was rough, pained. "They got me pinned down, but I stalled them long enough. Listen, there's a guy named Victor Delgado. He's a tech expert, a whistleblower I once protected. He owes me. He can crack Morton's files. Find him. Take the drive. Get justice." The line cut off. "Mark?" Alex yelled, but there was no response. Jenna choked back a sob. "He's dead, isn't he?" Alex slammed his hand against the steering wheel, rage boiling inside him. "If he is, Kyle's going to pay for it. Every last drop." He pulled over in a desolate parking lot and punched Delgado's name into his phone. A list of old news articles popped up. An ex-hacker who testified against a data cartel years ago. One article mentioned he was now working at a cybersecurity firm in downtown LA. It was a long shot, but they had no choice. The last ally. They reached the cybersecurity office just before dawn. Alex pushed through the doors, dragging Jenna behind him. A security guard looked up, startled. "We need to see Victor Delgado," Alex demanded. The guard hesitated, but when Alex flashed his attorney ID and hinted at a federal case, he grudgingly made a call. A few minutes later, a wiry man with tattoos and sharp eyes emerged. "What the hell's going on?" Victor snapped, sizing them up. Alex thrust the flash drive at him. "Your old friend Mark Davis sent us. He's dead. Kyle Morton killed him. This drive has everything to take him down, but we can't unlock the files." Victor's expression hardened. "Mark saved my life once. I'm in." He led them to a back office, barricading the door before booting up his rig. Jenna sank into a chair, her hands trembling. As Victor worked his magic, he frowned. This isn't just money laundering, it's a massive black market operation. Arms, drugs, human trafficking. Kyle's at the top of the pyramid. Alex felt bile rise in his throat. "Can you make it public?" Victor grinned wickedly. "Not just public, viral. But we need to move fast. Once I start uploading, they'll track us. You two better be ready to run." Jenna let out a strangled laugh. "Running is the only thing I've done for months." Victor began uploading the data to public servers and law enforcement networks. Alarms blared on his monitor. "They're on to us. We've got 5 minutes before they breach this location." Suddenly, tires screeched outside. SUVs pulled up, men pouring out with guns drawn. Victor cursed. "They're here!" Alex glanced at Jenna, determination blazing in his eyes. "We're not leaving without that upload. Victor, keep it going." He grabbed a metal rod from the corner and positioned himself at the door. Jenna looked at him with a mixture of fear and admiration. "If we die here," she whispered, "I just want to say, thank you. You've done more for me than anyone ever has." Alex looked at her, emotion burning in his chest. "We're not dying, not today." The door crashed open and the first man lunged at Alex. He swung the rod, catching the attacker in the jaw, and grabbed the gun from his hand. Gunfire erupted as Alex returned fire, forcing the men back. Behind him, Victor shouted triumphantly, "It's done! The files are out there. They can't stop it now." The remaining thugs retreated as sirens wailed in the distance. Alex collapsed into a chair, Jenna rushing to his side. The chaos finally settled as the sound of police sirens filled the air, and the remaining thugs scrambled to flee the scene. Victor looked at his screen, his hands still trembling, watching the upload bar flash 100% complete. The encrypted data had been sent to multiple secure servers, the FBI, and every major news outlet in the country. Kyle Morton's empire was exposed. Alex helped Jenna to her feet, still holding onto her protectively. Victor snapped out of his adrenaline-fueled daze and grinned. "They're going to be tearing Kyle apart," he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Once those files go public, his entire network will collapse." Jenna's face softened with a glimmer of hope. "Then, it's really over?" Before anyone could answer, the door burst open, and heavily armed FBI agents swarmed the room. Alex raised his hands, quickly identifying himself. "Alex Carter, attorney. This is Jenna, the whistleblower. Victor Delgado helped decrypt and release the evidence." A stern-faced agent stepped forward, glancing between them. "We know. The broadcast was flagged. We've been tracking Kyle Morton for years. You just blew the lid off his entire operation." Victor let out a relieved laugh, but Alex noticed something in the agent's face. Doubt, or maybe something darker. Before he could ask, the agent gestured to the team. "Secure them and move out," the agent barked. "What? Wait!" Alex protested as the agents grabbed his arms. Jenna tried to resist, but they restrained her as well. Victor took a step back, realizing too late that the agents weren't there to protect them. One agent grabbed the laptop and shut it down, securing the drive. "Hey, what the hell is going on?" Victor demanded. The lead agent glared at him. "You just compromised an ongoing federal investigation. The evidence needs to be contained. We're placing you all under protective custody." Alex's instincts screamed at him that something was wrong. Protective custody? Or are you trying to make us disappear? The agent didn't answer. Instead, he gestured for his men to escort them out. As they were dragged to the SUVs, Jenna caught Alex's eye. She was terrified, and he didn't know how to reassure her. An unexpected rescue. Just as they were being shoved into the armored SUV, gunshots rang out. One of the agents dropped to the ground, clutching his throat. Chaos erupted as armed men emerged from the shadows, dressed in tactical gear, clearly professionals. Victor cursed, ducking behind a nearby car. Alex took the opportunity to pull Jenna behind cover, grabbing a pistol from one of the fallen agents. The firefight intensified, and Alex quickly realized what was happening. Kyle's mercenaries had shown up. Somehow, despite the public exposure, Kyle still had resources at his disposal. In the middle of the chaos, the SUV they were supposed to be taken in suddenly accelerated, tires screeching. It plowed through the mercenaries, and to Alex's shock, the driver's window rolled down to reveal Mark Davis, bloodied but very much alive. "Get in!" Mark shouted, his voice hoarse. "Move, move!" Victor sprinted for the SUV while Alex shielded Jenna, guiding her to the car. Bullets bounced off the armored plating as they scrambled inside. Mark slammed on the gas, roaring away from the firefight. Alex turned to him, stunned. "You're supposed to be dead." Mark wiped blood from his forehead. "Almost was." Kyle's men stormed the safe house. I barely crawled out. "Those FBI agents back there?" "Not ours. Morton's got his claws in the bureau." "What?" Jenna gasped. "So even the FBI is compromised?" "Part of it," Mark clarified. "Morton's got friends high up, agents on his payroll. They were planning to collect you and bury the evidence before it spread too far." Victor looked back, still shaken. "So what now?" "The data's already out." Mark nodded. "Yeah, but it's going to be a war zone. Morton's desperate. He'll come after you personally now. No more sending grunts." Jenna's hands trembled. "I thought this was over. I thought he was finished." Alex squeezed her hand. "He will be. We just have to survive long enough for the public and law enforcement to connect the dots. Once the files are fully analyzed, the DOJ will have no choice but to act." Mark took a sharp turn on Kyle's last move. The safe house was a dilapidated cabin in the woods, surrounded by dense trees and far from any prying eyes. Once inside, Mark immediately began making calls to his few trusted allies within the Bureau. Alex helped Jenna settle on the worn-out couch, her face pale from exhaustion. Victor paced the room. If the FBI is compromised, how do we know who to trust? Mark grimaced. We don't. That's why I'm contacting some old friends from counterterrorism. They aren't connected to Kyle's circle. As Mark made his calls, Jenna pulled Alex aside, her voice shaky. I'm scared, Alex. I thought exposing him would end this. He wrapped his arms around her, his tone soothing. It's not over, but we're close. We just have to hold out a little longer. She looked up at him, her eyes softening despite the fear. You could have walked away 100 times, but you didn't. Why? Alex hesitated, realizing how much he'd come to care about her. Because I couldn't live with myself if I did. You and your baby deserve a chance at life without fear. She leaned her head against his chest, and for a moment, they both found solace in that small comfort. A loud ping interrupted them, Victor's laptop. He rushed over, examining the screen. Oh, shit, he muttered. What now? Mark demanded. Victor gestured to the screen. News just broke. Kyle's gone off the grid. No one's seen him since the data dropped. There's a $2 million bounty on anyone connected to the leak. That means us. Mark cursed under his breath. That means every mercenary, bounty hunter, and thug in the city will be after you. We need to move. As he spoke, a distant rumble grew louder. Mark's phone buzzed, and he glanced at the screen. His face went pale. They found us. Siege at the cabin. The cabin windows exploded inward as mortars hit the ground outside, shaking the entire structure. Mark yelled for everyone to get down as bullets shredded the walls. They're coming from all sides, Mark shouted. Victor scrambled to reinforce the door while Alex grabbed an assault rifle from Mark's bag. Jenna cowered behind an overturned table, trying to make herself as small as possible. Through the shattered windows, Alex spotted armed men converging on the cabin. He fired in controlled bursts, forcing some of them to dive for cover. Mark barked commands, directing Victor to set up a remote detonator with makeshift explosives from the garage. The air filled with smoke and gunfire as the cabin became a war zone. Suddenly, one of the mercenaries fired a grenade launcher, and the back wall exploded. Alex was thrown to the ground, ears ringing, but he managed to crawl back to his feet. Jenna was still alive, curled up behind the couch, but terrified beyond belief. Mark threw him a signal flare. When I say go, pop this and run to the woods with Jenna. I'll cover you. Alex shook his head. You'll never make it. Don't argue, it's our only shot. Victor activated the explosives, and several outside vehicles erupted in flames. The confusion gave them a brief window. Mark waved frantically. Now, go! Alex yanked Jenna up, practically carrying her as they dashed through the back door. He fired at shadows moving in the woods, the muzzle flash lighting up the darkness. Behind them, Mark unleashed suppressive fire, holding the mercenaries at bay. They sprinted into the trees, weaving through the underbrush, until the sounds of gunfire grew distant. Jenna gasped for breath, holding her belly as she struggled to keep moving. Suddenly, a gunshot cracked through the air, and Alex felt a hot sting in his shoulder. He grunted in pain but kept running, refusing to stop. Jenna's eyes widened, realizing he was hit. No, Alex, she cried. He forced a reassuring smile. It's just a scratch. Keep moving. As they broke through the tree line to a clearing, headlights blinded them. Alex froze, raising his weapon instinctively, but then realized it was a police car. Real law enforcement this time. Two officers approached cautiously. One of them, a woman with a firm stance, identified herself. Detective Maria Hayes, LAPD. We're here to extract you. FBI tipped us off about your location. Relief washed over Alex. Are you compromised? Hayes shook her head. Number. We're from the Joint Task Force that's been investigating Morton for years. We've been waiting for an opportunity like this. Jenna sagged against Alex, exhaustion overtaking her. Are we safe? For now, Hayes replied. We've got teams tracking Morton's last known location. We'll take you to a secure hospital to get that wound looked at. The final blow. The news broke just a day later. Kyle Morton had been tracked down, holed up in a luxury penthouse. SWAT had stormed the place, and after a brutal firefight, Kyle had been killed. Jenna was kept in a secure location until the investigation wrapped up, and Alex stayed by her side every step of the way. When Jenna finally gave birth, a healthy baby girl, Alex held the newborn with gentle hands, marveling at how fragile and perfect she was. You saved us, Jenna whispered, resting against the hospital pillow. Both of us. Alex kissed her forehead. You saved yourself. I just gave you a fighting chance. Jenna smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. You gave me hope when I had none. I'll never forget that. And as the world moved on from Kyle Morton's downfall, Alex knew his life would never be the same. He had fought for justice, not just for Jenna, but for every person crushed under the weight of 2 weeks after Kyle Morton's death. Life seemed to be inching back toward normalcy. News channels buzzed with the aftermath of Morton's criminal empire collapsing. High-profile arrests followed his death as key players in his network were flushed out of hiding. The FBI purged compromised agents, and investigations spread across multiple states and countries. Alex was hailed as a hero by those who knew the truth, but he remained cautious. Fame wasn't what he wanted. Jenna and her newborn daughter Lily were relocated to a secure residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles under police protection. Victor, now hailed as the whistleblower hacker, was already being recruited by cybersecurity firms. As for Mark, he was recovering from his injuries while continuing to work with the FBI task force. Despite the semblance of calm, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. There were too many loose ends, and worst of all, there was no concrete proof that Kyle had truly died. His body was allegedly identified at the penthouse, but the DNA results were inconclusive. The media barely touched on that detail, but it gnawed at Alex like a festering wound. One night, as Alex sat in his dimly lit apartment, his phone buzzed. It was Mark. Hey man, Mark said, his voice strained. You sitting down? Why? What happened? Mark hesitated. We got a problem. I just intercepted a private message from one of Morton's high-level lieutenants. It was encrypted but cracked by our tech guys. The message says, Phoenix is alive. The operation continues. Alex froze. Phoenix? That's Kyle's code name. We thought he was dead. But if this intel's legit, he faked his death and is still calling the shots from somewhere. Alex gripped his phone tightly. You sure about this? It's credible. I'm pulling every string I can to confirm. I need you to get Jenna and Lily somewhere even safer. If Kyle is alive, he'll be after them. Fear gnawed at Alex's gut. On it. Keep me posted. Revelation of the Phoenix. The moment he hung up, Alex grabbed his jacket and rushed out, his mind racing. Jenna and Lily were staying in a secluded house with 2 officers on guard. As he sped down the quiet roads, his mind flashed back to Kyle's ruthlessness. If that monster was still alive, Jenna and Lily were in imminent danger. When he arrived, the house was quiet, almost too quiet. He stepped out cautiously, noticing that one of the patrol cars was missing. Panic flooded him as he moved toward the door, only to find it ajar. Jenna? He called, his voice tense. Silence. Heart pounding, he moved inside. One of the officers was lying face down in the hallway, blood pooling under him. Alex's instincts kicked into overdrive. He pulled the officer's gun from its holster and advanced cautiously. Jenna! He hissed, trying not to alert anyone lurking inside. A faint cry came from the living room. He moved in cautiously and found Jenna on the floor, her wrists tied with zip ties. Lily was still in her crib, miraculously unharmed. Alex, Jenna sobbed. They were here. They took the other officer. They said if I made a sound, they'd kill her. He quickly cut her free, pulling her into his arms. It's okay. We need to get out of here now. Jenna's eyes were wide with terror. They left a message for you. They said if you want us alive, you'll meet them alone. They left coordinates on a slip of paper. Alex's mind raced. It was a trap. No doubt about it, but he couldn't risk not going. Pack a few essentials, he instructed. I'll take you to a safe place, then I'll go alone. Jenna gripped his arm. You can't go alone. It's suicide. He looked into her eyes, determination hardening his expression. I have to. They're coming after you. If I don't end this, they'll never stop. The Phoenix's nest mark called, just as they loaded into the car. Got news, he said grimly. We traced the message to an abandoned refinery at the edge of the city. We're mobilizing a team. No, Alex interjected. If he sees the feds coming, he'll kill Jenna and the baby. I have to do this alone. Give me a chance to get close. There was a pause before Mark grunted reluctantly. Fine, but I'm sending backup to the area. You give the signal if you need them. Alex knew that walking into the fire. The refinery loomed like a rusted skeleton against the darkening sky. As Alex approached, he could see the faint glow of lights flickering through cracked windows. He checked his gun, breathed in deeply, and moved inside. The vast chamber was eerily quiet, shadows stretching long across the concrete floor. Suddenly, a booming voice echoed through the space. Welcome, counselor, it sneered. I knew you couldn't resist. Kyle Morton stepped from the shadows, very much alive, his face twisted in a triumphant sneer. His presence was more menacing than Alex remembered, like a ghost returned to finish the job. Kyle, Alex called out, forcing his voice to remain steady. It's over. Your empire's gone. You're just a fugitive now. Kyle laughed darkly. Fugitive? Hardly. I'm the Phoenix. I burn, and I rise. You should have known that before you tried to take me down. As Alex cautiously moved forward, he noticed shadows shifting behind Kyle, armed men waiting for a signal. Kyle gestured grandly. You ruined my life, Alex. You took everything from me, my power, my money. You humiliated me. So now I'm going to take something from you. An eye for an eye. He snapped his fingers and a goon dragged out a figure. Mark, battered and bleeding. Kyle grabbed Mark by the hair, pulling his head back. You should have stayed dead, Kyle hissed. You and your lawyer friend just couldn't leave well enough alone. Alex raised his gun. Let him go, Kyle. This is between you and me. Kyle smirked. You're not in control here, counselor. Drop the gun, or I put a bullet in his skull. Reluctantly, Alex lowered his weapon and let it fall to the floor. There's a good boy, Kyle taunted. Always playing by the rules. But this isn't your world. This is mine. Kyle took a step closer, eyes glinting with madness. You know, Jenna was always a bit too soft for my taste. I thought I'd let her die quietly, but now, I think I'll make sure she suffers. And your little hero act? All for nothing. Rage boiled in Alex's veins. Touch her, and I swear... You'll do nothing, Kyle interrupted. You're helpless. You're just a lawyer. And you have no idea how deep my roots go. Mark, despite his injuries, looked at Alex and gave the smallest nod, a signal. Alex's heart pounded as he realized what it meant. Mark suddenly lunged at Kyle, knocking the gun from his hand. In that split second, Alex dived for his own weapon and fired at one of the guards, dropping him instantly. Chaos erupted. Bullets flew as Kyle scrambled for cover, yelling orders to his men. Mark fought viciously, even while wounded, managing to disarm one thug before getting knocked to the ground. Alex moved like a predator, precision shots taking down 3 more goons. But Kyle was nowhere to be seen. The noise died down, leaving only the hum of machinery and the crackle of distant fires. Suddenly, Kyle's voice echoed from a higher platform. You think this changes anything? I will burn this whole city down before I let you win. Alex spotted him on a catwalk, desperately trying to open a locked maintenance door. He aimed carefully and fired, grazing Kyle's shoulder. Kyle spun around, seething. "This isn't over," Kyle bellowed, pulling a detonator from his pocket. "If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me." Before he could press the button, Mark shot his hand, sending the detonator clattering to the ground. Alex didn't hesitate. He fired one final shot, hitting Kyle squarely in the chest. Kyle staggered, gripping the railing, his face contorting in shock and pain. "I can't." With a final gasp, he toppled over the edge, plummeting into the rusted machinery below. The loud crash echoed like a grim finale. Aftermath and new beginnings. The police swarmed the area minutes later, led by the real FBI task force. Mark was stabilized and rushed to the hospital while Alex gave his statement, exhausted but relieved. Victor arrived not long after, shaking his head. "You really did it, again, taking down the untouchable." Alex just smiled faintly, too tired to respond. Later, when he reunited with Jenna and Lily at the hospital, Jenna sobbed with relief, holding him as if afraid to let go. "It's over," Alex whispered, cradling her face. "He's gone, for real this time." Jenna kissed him, holding. The aftermath of Kyle Morton's death left a hollow, uneasy silence in the city. The FBI and law enforcement continued to untangle the web of corruption he had left behind. In the weeks that followed, Alex tried to rebuild his life, focusing on Jenna and Lily while keeping his career from falling apart. Yet, despite the victory, something gnawed at his soul, a sense that the battle wasn't truly over. Mark recovered from his injuries, but his demeanor was darker, hardened by the brutality of what they had faced. Victor, now hailed as a hero for exposing the crime syndicate, was busy clearing his name from a hacking charge. Jenna, still guarded and anxious, was trying to piece her life back together one day at a time. Yet racism lingered like a poison in the air. Despite Alex's heroism, whispers and suspicious glances followed him, especially when he appeared in public with Jenna and Lily. The media painted him as a reckless vigilante, an angry black man taking the law into his own hands. No one cared to acknowledge the real story. Instead, they focused on sensationalizing his actions, portraying him as a dangerous disruptor. One evening, as Alex sat in his office, flipping through client files, his phone buzzed. It was Mark. "Hey, man," Mark greeted, his tone unusually grim. "You sitting down?" Alex's gut clenched. "Yeah, what's up?" "We have a problem," Mark replied. "I just got off a call with Internal Affairs. There's a backlash forming against you. Some high-ranking officers and a few political figures are pushing to have you investigated." "For what?" Alex demanded, incredulous. "They're claiming you interfered with federal investigations, incited violence, and unlawfully used a firearm. They're saying you endangered civilians." Rage boiled inside Alex. "Are you kidding me? I saved Jenna and took down one of the most dangerous crime lords in the city." Mark's voice was somber. "Yeah, well, apparently it doesn't matter. The narrative they're spinning is that you were acting as a vigilante, taking the law into your own hands. They're using your race to fuel the story, calling it a gang-related vendetta." Alex gritted his teeth, feeling the bitter sting of injustice. "So, they're painting me as the thug in all of this?" "Pretty much," Mark confirmed. "And it gets worse. There's a protest forming outside your office building. Bunch of people chanting about how you're a menace to society. They've even dug up your old juvenile record, the one you got expunged." Alex's hands shook with anger. He had fought so hard to escape his past, to build a life of integrity and purpose, yet here it was again. Society trying to reduce him to a stereotype. "I'll be right down," he growled. The unforgiving streets. By the time Alex reached his office building, a crowd had gathered holding signs that read, "No justice, no vigilantes, and criminal in a suit." Police formed a line, keeping the crowd at bay. As he approached, reporters shoved microphones in his face. "Mr. Carter, is it true you have gang affiliations?" one shouted. Did you use your position to manipulate evidence? Another accused. Alex clenched his jaw. He knew better than to respond, but their words cut deep. The racial undertones of their accusations were glaringly obvious. He caught sight of a man holding a sign that read, "Black justice equals street justice." A police officer approached him, glaring with barely concealed disdain. "Mr. Carter, you're being asked to come down to the station for questioning. We'll be escorting you." Alex glanced at Mark, who had just arrived on the scene. Mark gave a nod, trying to reassure him, but the look in his eyes said it all. This wasn't just about justice. It was a power play. Interrogation room number 4. The police station was suffocating, filled with tension. The officers made no attempt to hide their contempt, some even muttering slurs under their breath. Alex sat in the cold metal chair, his hands folded in front of him. Across from him sat Captain Howard, a burly man with a bulldog face, and Agent Reese, a smooth-talking, white-collar investigator who looked more like a banker than a federal agent. Howard threw a file onto the table. "You sure stirred up some shit, Carter." Alex remained silent, his eyes unwavering. Reese leaned forward. "Why did you take the law into your own hands? Was it some kind of revenge scheme? Or did you just want to be a hero?" Alex snorted. "You seriously think I wanted any of this? I was trying to save a woman's life. The FBI and LAPD failed her. I stepped in when nobody else would." Howard sneered. "Yeah? Or maybe you saw an opportunity to take out a rival. Word on the street is that you have connections to some old gangs from your neighborhood. Funny how trouble just keeps finding you, though." They grilled him for hours, pushing, provoking, and trying to break his composure. They kept circling back to the same narrative, a black man taking justice into his own hands. No matter how much evidence they had of Kyle Morton's criminal empire, they wanted to pin something on Alex. The unexpected savior. Just when Alex thought they'd never let him go, the door swung open, and Mark barged in, face red with anger. "That's enough," Mark barked. "You're way out of line, Howard. This man saved lives and brought down a criminal syndicate." Howard scoffed. "Your hero here disobeyed federal orders and acted without authorization." Mark slammed a stack of papers on the table. "This is a signed affidavit from Jenna Morton, detailing how Alex protected her and the baby from Kyle's men. It corroborates every action he took. And these," he slapped down another stack, "are formal commendations from the DOJ and the mayor's office. You want to keep pushing your racist narrative, Howard? Be my guest, but you'll lose your badge." Howard fumed, but Reese looked unnerved. Mark crossed his arms, glaring at them. "Let him go. Now." Reluctantly, Howard nodded, and the officer at the door unlocked Alex's cuffs. Mark led Alex out of the station, and as they reached the parking lot, Alex finally spoke. "Thanks, Mark. I owe you one." Mark gave a weary grin. "You've done more for me than I can ever repay. You just keep doing what you do, fighting for what's right." Media storm and public perception. But the battle wasn't over. The media frenzy intensified, with pundits debating whether Alex was a vigilante or a hero. Hate groups painted him as a violent criminal, while civil rights activists defended his actions, citing systemic failure and racial bias in law enforcement. One evening, while Alex was at home, Jenna called him with panic in her voice. "Turn on the news," she whispered. He flicked on the TV and saw a live broadcast from his old neighborhood, police raiding his childhood home, dragging his cousin Malik out in cuffs. The anchor reported that Malik was suspected of helping Alex in his vigilante acts. Fury boiled inside him. This was retaliation. They couldn't pin anything on him, so they were targeting his family. He called Mark, who promised to look into it, but the damage was done. Malik's face was plastered across every screen, branded as an accomplice. A public stand. That night, Alex called Jenna. "We need to go public. They're not just coming after me, they're going after anyone connected to me. Lessons and the beauty of human nature. a story of courage, compassion, and resilience. The journey of Alex Carter and Jenna Morton is not merely a tale of courage and survival, but an in-depth exploration of human nature, social biases, and the power of compassion. At its core, it reveals profound truths about racism, prejudice, and the transformative power of kindness. This story, steeped in tension and danger, holds invaluable lessons that transcend personal struggle and touch upon universal themes of justice and human dignity. The power of a single kind. Act one of the most striking lessons from this story is the significance of a single kind gesture. Alex's decision to give up his first-class seat for Jenna, a pregnant and visibly distressed woman, was not a calculated move but an instinctual act of empathy. It was a small gesture that carried monumental consequences, setting into motion a series of life-altering events. This seemingly minor decision reflects a fundamental aspect of human nature, the innate capacity for compassion. In our modern world where indifference often overshadows empathy, Alex's simple act of kindness serves as a powerful reminder that we all have the ability to make a difference. It challenges us to reflect on our own lives. How often do we choose to reach out when others are in need? How willing are we to sacrifice comfort for the well-being of others? Kindness does not always manifest in grand gestures. Sometimes it is the small, seemingly inconsequential acts that shape destinies. By stepping out of his comfort zone, Alex unknowingly opened the door to a transformative experience that would test his resolve and character. The weight of racial prejudice. Another essential theme that the story unveils is the deep-seated racism that still permeates modern society. Alex, a black man with a troubled past, had overcome significant challenges to build a reputable career as a lawyer. Yet, despite his success, he remained painfully aware of the lingering stereotypes that followed him. Society, rooted in racial prejudice, often perceived him not as a successful attorney but as a potential threat. Even when he saved Jenna and exposed a criminal empire, many were quick to paint him as a vigilante, driven by vengeance rather than justice. This reflects a harsh reality for many people of color who often find themselves judged not by their achievements but by the color of their skin or the hardships of their past. No matter how far they climb, the specter of prejudice looms over them, ready to drag them back down. In Alex's case, his willingness to protect Jenna and her baby led to suspicion rather than praise. Instead of being celebrated as a hero, he was targeted and vilified, his actions distorted by a narrative eager to portray him as dangerous. This aspect of the story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about how racial bias continues to shape public perception. It compels us to question the justice system and media narratives that often focus on portraying people of color as inherently violent or untrustworthy. Alex's struggle exemplifies the emotional and psychological toll of constantly fighting against these societal prejudices, even when one's actions are inherently good and selfless. Breaking free from stereotypes. Alex's story is not just about fighting external enemies, but also about battling the internalized stereotypes that society forces upon him. From a young age, Alex was labeled as trouble simply because of his race and socioeconomic background. These assumptions became chains that tried to confine him to a predetermined fate. Yet, instead of succumbing, Alex used his intellect and determination to rise above his circumstances, becoming a lawyer who defended the defenseless. However, the story also highlights that breaking free from stereotypes is not a one-time achievement. It is a continuous struggle as prejudice finds new ways to manifest even when success is achieved. Alex's resilience in confronting both physical and social threats serves as a poignant lesson in perseverance. It tells us that overcoming racism is not just about personal success, but about consistently challenging the narratives that perpetuate discrimination. The burden of judgment and the need for understanding. Jenna's perspective also serves as an eye-opener to the dangers of judgment and the importance of understanding the full story before forming opinions. Initially, Jenna hesitated to trust Alex due to his imposing presence and her ingrained fears. However, as she witnessed his kindness and protective nature, she realized how wrong her assumptions had been. This transformation reflects a critical lesson: to withhold judgment until one understands the person behind the appearance. In society, snap judgments are often made based on race, gender, or past mistakes, without taking the time to understand the individual's journey. Jenna's growth highlights the necessity of seeing beyond superficial differences and forming connections based on shared humanity rather than preconceived biases. Strength in vulnerability. A remarkable aspect of the story is how it portrays vulnerability as a strength rather than a weakness. Jenna, after enduring years of abuse and violence, found herself terrified and alone. Yet, in her most fragile state, she dared to reach out and trust Alex. This act of vulnerability not only saved her life, but also allowed her to discover strength within herself that she never knew existed. Similarly, Alex's willingness to put himself at risk to protect Jenna and Lily is an embodiment of courage born from vulnerability. He could have chosen self-preservation, but his moral compass drove him to act despite the danger. Their shared journey reveals that vulnerability is not the absence of strength, but the willingness to confront one's fears in the pursuit of justice and protection, redemption and forgiveness. The concept of redemption runs deep throughout the story. Alex's past, marked by struggles and mistakes, did not define his future. Instead of letting past failures dictate his identity, he sought to become a force for good. This echoes a universal lesson. Redemption is not about erasing mistakes, but about using them as stepping stones toward becoming a better person. Moreover, the story subtly challenges us to practice forgiveness. Jenna's willingness to let go of her fear and accept help from Alex symbolizes the power of moving past pain and building trust again. In a world that often encourages retribution and resentment, the story gently reminds us that healing and redemption come from empathy and understanding. Humanity overcomes hate. Amid the chaos and violence, the story ultimately emphasizes that humanity can prevail over hatred. Alex's willingness to risk his life for Jenna, despite their different backgrounds, demonstrates that compassion knows no racial or social boundaries. It is a testament to the fundamental goodness that exists within people, regardless of the prejudices that society tries to impose. In the end, Alex's stand against systemic injustice resonates as a call to action for society as a whole. It serves as a wake-up call to confront and dismantle ingrained biases that continue to fuel discrimination. Through his journey, we are reminded that fighting for justice often means standing up, not just against criminals, but also against societal norms that perpetuate inequality. The unyielding pursuit of justice. Alex's journey is a testament to the unyielding pursuit of justice, a new vision of humanity. The story's conclusion, marked by Jenna and Lily's safety and Alex's public stand against prejudice, carries a powerful message about community and unity. Despite his hardships, Alex refused to let hatred consume him. Instead, he chose to be a beacon of hope for those who felt marginalized and oppressed. This choice exemplifies the beauty of human nature, the ability to rise above hate and embrace compassion as a guiding principle. In a world rife with division and animosity, this story serves as a beacon of resilience and hope. It calls upon us to see beyond race, to value human connection, and to stand against injustices even when it comes at great personal cost. By doing so, we not only honor the legacy of those who have fought before us, but also pave the way for a future where justice and empathy triumph over hatred and division. Final thoughts. Alex Carter's story teaches us that the path to justice is fraught with challenges, especially for people of color who must navigate a world riddled with prejudice. Yet it is also a story of hope and resilience, a reminder that one person's courage can spark change. It is a call to action to be more compassionate, more understanding, and more willing to challenge the biases that hold us back as a society. Through his unwavering resolve, Alex not only safeguarded Jenna and Lily, but also reaffirmed the power of humanity to overcome even the deepest-rooted hatred.